I'd like to call the January 16, 2014 regular meeting of the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission to order at 7:06 p.m. In attendance, alternate member Clow, regular member Coombs, Gunn, and Leskovich, and I'm acting chair Galdenzi. First order of business is public hearing that was postponed from the January 2nd meeting due to the snow. It's application 2013-14-2. It's a special use permit, accessory dwelling unit under section 42.5.5 and section 23, schedule A, line A11, to create an accessory dwelling unit within an existing single-family house at 138 Twin Lakes Road, accessory map 10, lot 40, R40 zone, owners Damir and Danijela Pavic. Applicant Damir Pavic.
Okay, you want to read the legal notice, and I'll pass out the package of information that the applicant has submitted.
The legal notice was placed in the Sound on Thursday, December 19th and December 26th. It read as follows. Notice is hereby given by the North Branford Planning and Zoning Commission. Will hold a public hearing at 7 p.m. on Thursday, January 2nd at the North Branford Town Hall, Council Chambers, 909 Foxen Road, Route 80, North Branford, Connecticut. Consider the following. P&Z application number 2013/14-8, special use permit accessory dwelling unit under section 42.5.5 and section 23, schedule A, line A11, to create an accessory dwelling unit within a single family house, 138 Twin Lakes Road, assessor map 10, lot 40, R40 zone, owners Damir and Danijela Pavic, application Damir Pavic. All at this hearing, all interested persons may appear and may be heard, and written communications will be received. Copies from the above proposal are on file for public inspection in the Town Hall Planning Department. Presented by Harry Dulac, Chairman, 12/19/13.
Mr. Chairman, the publication notice and the notice to the required abutters within 500 feet of the site has been done by the applicant, along with the posting of the public hearing site on the property. So everything is in order for the hearing to be conducted. And the applicant is here, and I guess he'll come forward if you want to just explain the procedure.
Yeah, so we'll have some opening remarks by the applicant. The staff will read in any correspondence we receive. Then we'll open it up to the public. And I just asked if anyone wants to speak on behalf of the public, just come forward, state your name, and then make your remarks into the microphone. So
You're welcome to sit down or speak in front of the mic, whatever you're comfortable with.
Just your name and
My
address.
name is Damir Pavic, and this is my wife, Daniela Pavic. Good evening, everybody. How are we doing?
Thank you.
The owner of this property, 138 Twin Lakes Road.
Perhaps it might be good to have them just go through the handout of your application. You've submitted your request written as far as your statement of what you're going to use this for. You had said it's a one-bedroom, one-bath unit used for family needs, in-law visits, and your children's needs in the future, correct?
Correct.
And the next one shows the area of the 500-foot abutters within that property. As you can see, the darker shaded
The darker
property
property.
is the property. The next one is the individual plot plan. The third sheet shows where the unit will be within the existing build-out of the house. We have extensive information here on this, so you'll be able to see. He's done a front elevation of the house that's being renovated. And there's also a picture of it that's later in the package from the assessor's card that shows the front construction of the building he's doing. That's on like the third and fourth page. The second one after the front elevation of the building is the rear. And you can see that the unit is going to be in the left-hand side of the front of the house on the second floor.
So it's two stories.
Well, no, below is, and you can explain, below is.
Below is two-car garage.
Car garage, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
so
we're
we're talking
talking
the
the
second floor. Yeah, it's not over the garage.
So you're putting over the garage and you'll have a staircase from the second floor.
And then the second floor design of the actual accessory dwelling unit, I've circled at that end of the building. The size conforms to the requirements of the special standards under this section for accessory dwelling units. It's no larger than 600 square feet. There's a little jog in it. He made sure that he was in compliance. And then the entry and exit is through the rear back of the building to a deck and then the stairs, which you see in the next design shown. This is what he has also going to be submitting to the building department if the commission acts favorably on this application. And then the last one is the photo on the back side of the current assessor's card, which shows a black and white photo with the construction that he's doing. He's upgrading the house extensively to make it more livable, and it actually fits in pretty well with the area. And I don't have this section here that says on the front page of the assessor's card, but you have 1.4 acres of land. So there isn't an issue with the size of the property in relationship to the scale of the house. And while I'm just talking, maybe we can also go through the staff comments so that then the applicant, if he has any further things that he would like to inform you of, he can. The first one is entered in as Exhibit 1, which is a review by Kurt Weiss, the town engineer, dated December 10th, 2013. The above referenced property is connected to municipal sanitary sewers. There are no outstanding engineering staff comments. The next review is entered in as Exhibit 2. It's from the Fire Marshal Burt Bunnell, dated December 14th, 2013. No problems with application as long as owner, applicant, occupant follows all Connecticut fire safety codes in accordance to the 2014 fire and building codes. Smoke and C of O detectors are required. The third exhibit, Exhibit 3, is a review submitted by Thomas Cowell, the building official, dated 12/30/2013. Construction started without permit, must comply with the 2005 Connecticut Building Code. And the last, which unfortunately it wasn't color-coded, so let me pass out my review, which is color-coded on these copies. Generally, what the commission looks at in any approval in a neighborhood of an accessory dwelling unit, because it is a special use, what other approvals that the commission through this particular regulation have approved. I have the company map that highlights in yellow the ones that you've approved since the creation of this special use regulation. and also, and that's in yellow, the site is in blue. And then I've highlighted the addresses on the list we have compiled since this regulation was enacted, I believe in 1991, 1992. So what we have is a unit that's in the residential house on Colonial Drive at 56, Colonial Drive, a accessory dwelling unit in the residential house, Lindsay Lake Road, number 142. Also, there's one on 33 off Twin Lakes Road, and one on Rolling Hills Drive, 21 house number, and 37 Rose Lane. And then there's two actually on the street which his house is on Twin Lakes Road. There's one at 198 and 309. 309 is way up near the other leg.
Over here. Okay.
As you see, the map, the scale of the map is 1 inch equals 1,000.
Because it's, I
So-
was looking here for.
Right. So actually within, you know, there's not too many properties that are even close to within the 500
No,
range. And
none was 500.
the neighborhood isn't oversaturated with these accessory dwelling units. And in fact, the houses in which they've been either added to or developed within the existing house still appear to be single-family residents, and most people don't even realize there's any unit in that. So that's the analysis I have.
Okay, thank you.
Other than maybe perhaps some questions the commission would want to have at this point, do you have any other things to add before the chairman opens up the public hearing?
Thank you.
It's pretty
Does anyone on
straightforward.
the commission have any questions for the applicant? No? You can ask later too.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the stair out of the unit.
Yeah. Is the entrance only through the outside? Is there,
Yes, only from outside, yeah.
so there's no connection into the established house already?
No.
And which of the profiles in the packet would be the one that you would be looking at? I mean, there's an L-shaped one and then a straight one off the house, and then if you look at the rear elevation, it's almost like it's coming down off the side.
They're coming down from less than 12 feet high, and they're going, well, probably going to be a little bit wide, 6 feet wide.
No, I mean the profile, because you have, if you look at the packet that you have,
Yeah.
you have one that shows it coming down. This elevation would indicate that it's coming down along the side. And then you have, yeah,
Shows it coming straight
then
off.
your second floor plan shows it coming straight out. And then you
Very
have
L-shape, definitely final L-shape.
the L-shape,
Yeah, L-shape is final.
which would be this sheet.
Yes.
Okay,
Definitely.
Yeah, that was submitted later.
okay.
When he first submitted his documents, he had the ones that you saw first, and then this was submitted afterwards. I think that was because
Yes,
You
yes.
might want to consider
it
covering
had more
that.
input from the building official.
Uh,
So his graphics
Yeah.
did show that,
Okay.
that change. But,
Is there, do we ever, I can't recall if we have a requirement to have an interior access? No, we can have solely exterior access?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I
Because
remember we've had discussions on that.
one,
Okay.
one of the issues always is it just an expansion of the existing house? And that, you know, there's not a barrier wall between this and the existing unit, the existing house. And if, in those cases, the commission has ruled that that's just an addition to the existing house. But,
Okay.
and we've had accessory dwelling units. The regulation does address that it has to be a wall that's shared,
It's a common
but
wall.
not,
Yeah.
but not a doorway or anything of that nature.
But is it also fireproof? The
Well,
wall between
here
the
again,
existing and
that's
the...
something that
By
the
code,
building
yes.
and the fire
Yeah,
codes.
It talked
And-
about 5/8.
And,
5/8,
and one of,
Okay.
one of the things,
Talked about
yeah,
5 inch.
Under the garage, even,
I saw that.
5/8.
Well, the garage is required to be fire rated on the walls anyway to the house, and the ceiling would be fire rated, but
Definitely.
your wall,
Now already there's 5/8 between the garage and my living room.
yeah.
Yeah, it's already gonna be 5/8.
Well, and the other thing is, in every approval that you've granted, you've always taken the additional condition of approval that's been suggested by the technical staff of the building official and the fire marshal, that all the building, it be applicable and apply to, and all the codes, fire and safety codes and building codes apply. And I think the fire marshal mentioned the 2014 revisions. So here again, there's a more defined review at the time of the actual permits for these two technical areas. So your concern is justifiable, but, you know, we have the use that we're looking at, whether the use is appropriate, and the other things will fall into place once, you know. But we always reference the condition in the motion that to have those requirements met as part of the approval.
Okay. Any other comments?
And the other thing is, the accessory dwelling units that you've approved that have a similar design with, you know, a stairwell or some other entrance to the rear or to the side, have been for in-law family members. So this suits the general intention of this regulation, to be able to assist families with additional living area that's somewhat independent for the person that's in that unit, so that he has his own kitchen facilities. And here again, it's a small space, but obviously it's adequate enough for the family member, okay?
Yep. Okay. Any other comments you want to
No,
make?
no,
Okay.
thank you.
At this time, we'll open it up to the public. Again, if you just want to come forward, state your name, and make a comment. Anyone want to speak? Okay. Okay, I guess no one's going to speak.
If there's
So-
no other comments from the
Yeah,
commission,
any
questions?
comments from anyone?
No.
I hadn't closed the hearing.
Okay, at this point, we're going to close the public hearing portion of this public hearing, the public portion of this public hearing.
And I make a motion.
I have a motion drafted suggesting approval.
Same thing, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to give an extra copy.
Yep.
And as I suggested, we usually have conformance to the requirements of the section of the zoning regulations, and then also condition adherence to all applicable building codes and fire safety codes. So I've also suggested some reasons for approval, that the proposal fits with the single-family neighborhood, and the proposed exterior building elevations maintain a single-family house appearance. So if there's anything else you want to comment or add to the motion other than that.
Okay, I move to approve planning and zoning application 2013/14-8, special use permit accessory dwelling unit under section 42.5.5 and section 23, schedule A, line A11, to create an accessory dwelling unit within an existing single-family house at 138 Twin Lakes Road, Assessor Map 10, Lot 40, R40 zone, owners Demir and D'Angela Pavic, applicant Demir Pavic, as shown on the submitted application map and drawings, subject to the following conditions. 1, confirmation to the requirements of section 42.8.5 of the zoning regulations. 2nd, adherence to all the applicable building codes and fire safety codes. Reason for approval is it fits within a single-family neighborhood, and the exterior elevations of the house are maintained as a single-family house appearance.
Okay.
Second.
Charlie, second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
Doug, second.
What's that?
Second?
Charlie.
Charlie, second. Okay,
Thank you very much.
yeah, thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
You can get to bed early.
Good evening. Sorry we canceled last week, or a couple weeks ago, but it wasn't a good night to come
Okay,
up.
thank you. Appreciate it. Want to say thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah, we'll see you later, buddy.
Have a nice night. Thank you.
So cute.
Okay, we're down to 4 already, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 4A, property owner requests to have an informal discussion on the zoning process to rebuild the rental hall with catering and restaurants at 730 Forest Road, owner 730 Forest Road LLC.
We have Attorney Pat Young here, and also Dennis Bizzuto representing. Mhm.
Okay. Welcome.
I come here with a sense of deja vu because I was here several years ago when I got this property approved with a special permit.
I do have a file, if you'd like me to pass out the application maps or anything, I can certainly do that.
For back then, you mean?
Huh?
Yeah, sure.
Well,
Yeah.
you want to hear what your
Whatever,
proposal
you know,
was first,
whatever
right?
helps.
Before-
Sure.
Let's hear what you have to say first.
The owners now would like to rebuild the same building that was there since the 1984, since it was the VFW headquarters. They want to have a restaurant and a gathering place, a rental hall in the same building. And the problem that I think that we're running into is whether or not they are entitled to do it under our regulations. There was a fire on June 27, 2010, when the building was destroyed, practically all destroyed. My clients had a mortgage, a first mortgage on the property. They didn't know it because they had sold it to the operator of the restaurant, a fellow by the name of Amato Bernardo. When they made application to the insurance company to get the money to pay it back, to rebuild it, and the insurance companies refused. They thought it was suspicious, and they wouldn't pay the money. It took our client about 2.5 years, 3 years to finally get the insurance company to pay him. He's just a mortgagee. Clearly, he didn't have anything to do with fire. And they paid him. When they paid him, he used that money to buy the property from Mr. Bernardo, who's, I believe, somewhere in Florida now, but who still has litigation pending against the insurance company. And he also paid the town, repaid the town for the lien that he had for its demolishing the building. And then they brought the taxes up card as well. They came in here once, I think, a couple of months ago, and sought to put condominiums on the property, and I think clearly that is not what this commission wants. And I don't think they have a zone for that anyway. But it was, they decided to rebuild the same thing that was there before. Apparently, I heard from Mr. Albanese, who apologizes, but he's in Boston tonight with his college daughter. He said it was very successful while it was there. His wife was the booking agent for the hall upstairs, for the dances and the weddings and the showers and everything. She said it was busy almost every weekend, he tells me. And the restaurant was very successful. I never went there myself, but they said it was successful, and everybody here did. And they want to recreate it. I think the town needs it, we could use it. There's no place in town where a non-public gathering can be at. We go to the schools, I suppose, but you can't have a beer or a glass of wine or anything like that. With this property, you could. And they're going to use, they don't intend to change the footprint at all. It's going to use the foundation that's there. But we're faced with that section of the zoning regulation 51. I can't tell what it is. The section that requires that anything A non-conforming use must be rebuilt within a year if it is destroyed by a fire. I suppose we can go to the zoning board of appeals and ask for variance in that section on the basis of hardship, the hardship being that they couldn't get the money from the insurance company for 3 years in order to buy it, to pay it off. Or we can look at it and say that this whole section doesn't apply because it's not a non-conforming use. The property was issued because was used as a restaurant and a gathering place because of the special use permit that this board and commission granted. Special unit permits under our law in Connecticut run with the land, not with the owner, not with the person there. So if you have a special use permit, it is good for the current owner and all subsequent owners. And in my opinion, this restaurant or this building or this land was not a non-conforming use. And it is not a non-conforming use. It has a matter of right that you folks gave to have to build it, to use it for that particular purpose. Now, if there's any, I understand it's a pretty sophisticated point of law, but maybe the commission can check with the attorney, Chesmani, to see what his feeling is. Mine is that the special permit runs with the land, and they could go ahead and, subject to your approval of a site plan, go ahead and rebuild the business. Any questions?
Just to make a comment on that, what he's said is true. There's been some court cases that treat special uses similar to variances, which run on the land and exist and continue. I think the nuance with this that makes it a little more confusing is the fact that the premise of the special use was to have a historic conversion on a building because of its historic significance and its architectural significance, which this building had. You know, it was done by an architect, and it had a history for what the prior uses were. And in order to preserve the integrity of that building, this use would be allowed to be fitted in, to be revised to a commercial, especially in residential zones in which this property had been developed as, you know, in the other use, special use it had. And I think that the issue here is there's a technicality. Does that, because it was tied into a specific, you know, developed building for the intention of preserving the building for, you know, for the duration, since the building is, you know, demolished, does that still hold true that the special use is still existing? And, you know, I think the suggestion of having a town attorney's opinion asked by the commission might be worthy to further get some legal opinion as to that issue, so that, you know, if there is a strong legal standing based on, you know, the evidence of the legal cases that have come forward to the courts, then there's no doubt if that's the way it goes, then obviously they could be rebuilding. Obviously, the special use always was tied into having a site plan approval. So, I mean, even if you might say, well, the building's gone, but probably the fact that we'd still have a site
You'd
plan.
have control over this.
You'd have control over the appearance of the building to make sure it fit in with the existing neighborhood, and no further expansion of parking or anything of that would be changed, because you're not changing the special use, you're just rebuilding it to the existing footprint, which was approved building-wise and also parking area. So, you know, if you want to consider that as, you know, a good way of trying to find out the legal merits of what's involved here, I think that's one way of approaching this situation. The other way is, you know, they would then if this didn't work, they would then go for a special use through the zoning board of appeals. Just like when we've had daycare centers approved in buildings on Route 80, Foxen Road, it went through a special exception, and our regulations then, because it's approved by the zoning board of appeals, it's sort of like a variance to allow that use into that residential area. Then the commission has to also do a referral of that application to comment before it's acted on by the zoning board of appeals.
Yep.
Then also the regulation calls for it to be then further approved under a site plan approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission, so that there's further safeguards that what's developed and how the use is played out on the property is proper for the area in which it's being placed.
I think that we should ask Attorney Jesmond about it, number one. And second thing is, when they rebuild, do they still have to follow the historical presentation of the building? And is that what you're planning on doing it, putting it pretty much the way it was?
Yeah, exactly, just recreating what was there prior.
Because I would think that that would be something that Attorney Jesmond would work in their favor, you know?
Well, I think that could be part of the question, sub-question that you're asking him to weigh in on, about whether the special use continues on the property, even though the building has been destroyed. And if that is the case, then what footprint does the building take? Does it have to duplicate the appearance of the previous building? And you could put that in your inquiry to see what he says. And then we could also suggest an alternate, can an alternate design that fits in with the neighborhood that may be better in appearance to the general character of that neighborhood better? Because I think that had sort of like a steeple besides, and it had some interesting
Yeah,
designs.
Silo type.
Or would it have to mirror completely the footprint of, and the design of what was there before? So, I mean, it's a good question to ask.
Seems very reasonable, right?
Yeah.
I would think that you'd want to know that ahead of time, and
I like
but
the
just,
I think the commission would want to know
yeah.
Yeah.
what their parameters
Yeah.
are in the reapproval of a site plan.
Yeah, I
Because
like the idea of
you would
asking-
have to have probably
The
I
other,
would think a site plan to just to verify what you're building.
Doug, go ahead.
yeah, the other thing that I would request from the attorney would be also whether or not, would it then have to go through back to us, or does it have to go to the appeals, go through
Right,
appeals process?
Right, yeah.
Why would it have to go through appeals if,
The zoning board of appeals for
Yes.
the
yeah, but why
special.
would it have to if they're saying that?
Yeah, that's the alternative.
Yeah.
That's the question we're
It's either
asking.
allowed or it
Yeah.
has to go to zoning board.
Yeah, and if he's saying
It's
it's not
allowed.
allowed, then he has no choice but to go to zoning board of appeals.
I like-
But
I like-
other than that, it's not a question.
What I would suggest, as we've done before, I've drafted something which is a general framework of what we've discussed at the meeting. I've emailed it to you, and then all
Let's
of
do
you
that.
comment.
Mhm.
And then, this is not a simple matter. I think we have to elaborate to be able to tell the town attorney, what, you're asking about in more detail. So I think we can do it that way, if you prefer to be consistent with the other approaches
I
that
think
you
that's
had.
Yes.
I like the idea of including if you can have an alternate design
Right,
too, because
And ask
maybe
that
the
as a
one- maybe the
supplemental
one that-
question. Yeah.
maybe the identical maybe isn't.
Is
what we want.
practical.
Yeah,
I'm
practical,
sure
or
that
maybe
the
it doesn't fit
owners
anymore.
will be glad to listen to you and give you control over the site plan. If you think a different design is more appropriate, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly.
It would be good to know if we have that flexibility.
Well,
We might not have
And we
flexibility.
still
And not
bring it
only
If we do,
that,
then we do.
the interior layout might be more functional. I mean, you'd have the same square footage of service area probably. You wouldn't be changing that, but maybe how functionally it's laid out you know, you don't have those existing walls that you had before. You can have a more open area, have a kitchen that's more centrally located so that if you have some
Mr. Albany
supplement.
told me that the only change he would make is that he put the hall on the lower level and the restaurant the other way around, because the way it worked now, the restaurant was below and the hall was upstairs. And people eat in the restaurant and other folks on top dancing. He said that was distracting, so maybe he'd switch the uses of the floors.
Which makes sense.
It
Well,
sounds
it would
reasonable.
probably be more functional in a way,
Yeah.
too.
Any other comments?
No, I think,
it would
you know, we should, hopefully John will give us the answer we want to hear. I think we want to hear.
Yeah.
Because it's unfortunate that, you know, they got into this hassle with the insurance company, because if that had been done promptly, the place would have been rebuilt, and they'd be doing something there other than collecting dust.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a
And
welcome
Case is still pending for the owner.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an eyesore for so long, and it's really a hazard right now. Any kid could go in there and fall in.
I know.
So how they've allowed it to even go this far.
There's a need for it too, I think it'd do fine.
Oh, yeah,
There
they were
sure
always
is.
busy there.
There's very much a need for it.
Bring more business to town.
And
Yep.
just to ask you, what would be your intention if you could go ahead and, you know, just roll this out? Would you end up trying to do something this year in the spring?
Yeah, no, we get started right away.
Mhm.
I start right away.
Well-
Get a plan to you guys and then take it from there.
Well, if you can request of the town attorney to have a reply for, at least within a month's time, 'cause, you know, he has to research it.
February 6th too early? We have February 6th for February 20th, next two meetings.
I just do as soon
Well-
as possible.
Yeah.
Here again, I don't know what's happening in his office right now with our town, different items we have. But certainly.
It's putting
Yeah.
a burden on the new owner to get it, to get it done as soon as possible. And if he
Well-
loses the summer,
But
he loses all that money.
then I can draft some language to, and then you can look at it to see, you know, as soon as possible or within a month's time or something, you know. So we'll pull that in, okay?
Good luck.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you,
Thanks, Dennis.
ladies
Thanks.
and gentlemen. We have a new record too moving on the P and Z. We ever have two before?
Yeah,
Two ladies?
we did.
With that? Well, next one, president next. Thank you, ladies.
You're welcome.
Let's hope.
You. We got some minutes from November 21st.
Anybody want to see?
Oh, I wasn't here, I know that.
Here,
So
two
November
copies.
21st, Harry was absent, I was here, Doug, Charlie, and Nancy were here.
Yeah, I got four.
For November
Family Dollar
21st.
Store, that was the Family Dollar Store night, remember that? Where we
No.
looked that over?
I know, it was
And then it
some
was
time ago.
Dennis's original
Um,
request, that was the meeting.
Anybody?
I didn't have any comments on it.
Move to approve the minutes of the meeting of November 21st, 2013.
Second that.
Doug, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Who second?
Doug.
Doug.
Charlie made the motion, Doug, second. 4 yeas. Fran abstained.
Okay. Next is the proposed budget, 2014, 2015 fiscal year.
We reviewed that last time, didn't we?
Let me just pull it
That's
up.
something else.
Capital,
Oh,
I think, last time.
Well, let me tell you, this
you get
is,
$30?
being fiscally conservative, town managers requested that budgets be submitted with no increase. And if there is an increase, that, you know, the appropriate party, whether in this case your commission, substantiate the reason why of the increases. What we have is what actually you see as under manager proposed happens to be what was approved. The front sheet is the summary of the different accounts, and that was what was approved for the Planning and Zoning Commission. The amount includes part-time CEO who works 2 mornings a week from 8:30 to noon time, and then also has hours to staff the zoning board of appeals meetings, which he attends.
Is that
Okay.
other contractual? Is that
Yes,
his salary?
that's under
Must be, okay.
320 under other contractual, okay? He is not a town employee. He's
Yeah.
considered part-time of a consultant, okay? So it's kind of hard to figure out those hours the way it's written.
I guess this is lean.
But
This is lean.
he works
Is this-
basically 8 hours.
$20
Is this just
for
an FYI to
publications.
us, or?
Yeah.
We don't
Well,
do
and,
any, we don't.
no,
vote or
you
anything. It's just like, so we-
normally do not
So we know.
technically approve it. You just,
Yeah.
since it is your budget, you need to really see if that you have any real issues with it. This is purely a operational budget. There's no frills, no extra studies or anything of that nature.
No.
Is that enough for advertising? I don't know how much advertising is. It didn't
Well-
seem that much. I mean, sometimes you do a bunch.
Right, and
But sometimes
here
you don't.
again,
Sometimes it goes.
we've kept it at that range because sometimes, this past year, we haven't had too many meetings that
Yeah,
went
true.
too long,
Mhm.
or public
Public
hearings.
hearings, yeah.
We have some things coming up. However, this past year, we didn't use all the advertisement.
Yeah.
We had just under $800 in advertisement. This year coming, we may have at the start of the remaining of this fiscal year, some additional things that will come up for public hearings, which will require changes on special uses that we have that might be controversial. So those get advertised one time, and then we'll just have continued hearings, and each time it's just listed as continued advertised item.
Okay. Doug, you look like you have a question on that budget.
No, I was
Looking
just,
at that $20 for books?
no, I was looking at the noise meter calibration.
Oh,
Man.
that's been taken out.
Oh,
You
that
gotta
we wanna
calibrate
take it
those
out.
every year, you know.
That's,
They're not
that's-
good.
yeah, that's been taken out. So, we have a new one anyways that self-calibrates somehow because of the
Yeah.
technological.
Okay.
So anyways.
Any comments on, any other comments? No.
It's just
Okay.
that, here again, this ends up then being reviewed again by the manager. He makes additional cuts if he feels it's necessary based on the other overall budget area.
From this.
Well, if you notice the difference, we only were cut about
Oh, yeah.
$200 or so. And that was actually the noise meter, because we got a new one, and it was not as archaic where it needed to be calibrated every year. So
Good.
that's where that was. So
Good.
that budget's been pretty consistent for the last few years,
Right.
and it's served us well. We've actually, in some cases, handed back some money to the general fund, which at the end of the year, there's always some different things that overrun litigation sometimes because of planning and zoning. Those unexpected things add up the cost, and that's a separate account, but,
Okay, good.
so we're all set with
And
that.
no other
Okay?
comments, right?
No.
Okay. So D is update on proposed propane cylinder cage at Big Y.
Okay, if you remember,
I remember this.
we had, just generally, under a broad discussion, I believe it was at a meeting in November, okay? you had requested, you wanted to know the fire marshal's review comments on the proposal and the safety of the proposed
One it up against the
locations.
retaining wall.
Well,
right?
here's the whole package of, the top is the response from the fire marshal, and the backup pages are what was the original proposal.
This was, Fran, this was going to go in the front corner
Yeah,
when you
the last-
pulled into Big
the
Y,
last-
right at the corner.
the last
The
of the
last-
building.
As you're looking
The
at
last
it.
page of the handout is actually a reduced copy of the site plan for the Big Y, and I've penciled in where the corner, when you look at the building, it would be on the left-hand corner, proposed propane
Yeah, right there.
cage, okay?
So it's not against the
And
The
the
left side.
second
front.
to the last page kind of shows the front of the building where the applicant drew in a specific area, okay? And if you look, it's adjacent to the area where, once you're inside the building, it's where the men's and women's room is, and then you come out of there and you come into that eating area that they have set up for the fast food service that they also have, that people can then also take something from the pastry area and have coffee, and have, you know, even a seafood dinner there from the other areas that they provide
So-
product. So
Reading his
Really-
comment here.
really what he said, you know, he's concerned that he cannot recommend this location for, you know, 36 to 36
20 pounds.
20-pound propane cylinder storage area, okay? And, you know, he went through the different observations he had, and his concern also was about the barrier protection in front of the unit to protect it from being hit by any vehicles in the area. Also, there is a water valve shut-off on the building in the middle of the area where they want to place the cage. This valve area must have and maintain free accessibility. I mean, that's where the fire people would put their hosing to connect to. And then there's also just the logistics of how the design of the swinging doors on the cage would open, and that there isn't really enough of clearance on the sidewalk in which this thing would be placed. So
Okay.
here again, you know, without going through every item, there's 5 items of, that he's indicated as concerns.
So Big Y came,
Well, no,
What- yeah,
Pinnacle
how did we get
Propane
this?
Express,
okay, they wanted,
They-
they came to us.
they came to
Yeah.
Big Y and said, you know, or maybe Big Y approached them, I don't know.
But I
All
mean,
my
they-
correspondence is from
Yeah.
the Pinnacle Propane people that are located
So they
in
came to you with the question. Can we
Erie,
put this?
Illinois,
I'm just
yeah.
trying to recall how this came to us.
Yeah, and it wasn't a formal application.
Yep.
I think in other situations that they've had, in other commercial developments, they've just added it, just like some of these commercial developments add an outside vending machine, you know, a Coke dispenser machine, or a video drop-off thing, and I
Well,
think.
obviously, they have to find another place for it.
I think
Well,
we made the right
the
decision
first-
in
my-
referring it to the fire marshal,
Yeah.
so
When
that was
I-
good on our part.
When I requested the fire marshal, he had already told me that he had dealt with these people already, because they wanted to put it near the bottle drop-off
Mhm.
area that's right next to
To the bounce,
U
yeah.
Bounce.
Yeah.
And he rejected it over there. So that was even before even coming to ask, you know, me as the town planner, what the Planning and Zoning Commission would think about this new location. And I think it was because the fire marshal and the building official told them
Yep.
that, you know, you should have this go through planning and zoning, because, you know, here again, it was a site plan development, the commission approved, and it does pertain to something on that site plan of how something is laid out. So,
Well, really what should happen, I would think, is somehow we facilitate the fire marshal and the big Y people getting together and coming up with a spot they both like. Is
Well-
Because we're gonna be
we're
bouncing it
over-
back to him every time they come here,
Yeah.
right?
Well-
So
He's the guy you
cut us
gotta
out.
please.
Yeah, cut us out and then
well,
at least talk. like you said.
let me just say, in response to his review of December 30th that I emailed back to Pinnacle, I got an email back that asked, well, we can adjust this or we can adjust that. I emailed that back to the fire marshal
There's nothing
to see what he would say, and I further followed up yesterday with him, and he said, I'm not playing that kind of game. I'm not putting Jersey barriers in front of an area, because that's what they were proposing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's what they'd have at
he said,
Cumberland
this is
Farms,
what,
by the way.
what my, final comment is. So I think he thinks the whole idea is not a good location. I mean, if you know,
It's straight-
everyone's
it's
been over
straight
there. You
on.
go down that road
It's
and you're
straight
heading
on.
right for that
Yeah.
area
Right.
of that corner of the building.
A little ice
And the trucks also
Comes from
use
the
that
side.
side of the building for rear access for
Yeah.
unloading their product in the back of the building. So
Right. So-
it's a heavy traffic area. It's not just a isolated, area that pedestrians may not necessarily use, but there's other issues of traffic volume of cars and vehicles.
There
So
actually
our-
might be other issues with that too, because, now when you read this, there could be issues with the building itself. I mean, does the building department need to look at that also? Because it becomes a fire hazard outside, so you want to make sure the structure's rated on the exterior and
Yeah.
such, and the overhang, and it's a domino.
Well,
So is our involvement, how is our involvement?
Well,
Are we done with it?
she asked if, please let me know what the final decision is, okay?
We have to go along with,
Now, let me ask you the other question. If there wasn't any fire safety issues, would you permit this additional product to be out there like that? I mean, would you want to have that there as
What
under
kind
the
of-
site plan?
What kind of product?
Well,
The
it's
propane tanks.
cylinders of, there's one thing to have nursery shrubs and things of that, which are typically what you have. The other thing is, you have a water valve right in that location. How do you get access to?
I don't think there's any question that it cannot go where
Yeah.
they'd like to put
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I agree.
And unless they want to make it freestanding in some other part of the parking lot or something, and have one of their employees take care of it in and out. I don't know why,
Okay.
there's nothing for us to be involved in here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Fire marshal says no, then it's no.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
his jurisdiction.
Well, and if they do find an alternate location, you don't need to have it go through for your approval. Is that what you're saying to me now?
As long as the fire
The
marshal.
fire marshal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fire marshal and the building official. Okay. If everyone's in the agreement.
Is everyone
Because
okay
there
with
is-
that?
Oh, yeah,
there is
it's
a-
clearly their decision.
Yeah,
and
I
they
agree,
follow.
that's why we reverted to it,
Right.
right, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let me just tell you, the whole
He says
premise
no,
of
it's
why this is even here, okay? You're talking about what's considered as outside storage, okay? And the commission can determine if enclosures are necessary in connection with necessary and reasonable outside storage that is adjunct to retail sales. Now, that's what this is. And, under the site plan, you have that review of anything that goes outside the building, okay? And that's why this was even brought back to you.
I think we don't have
Nothing
a problem with it
fits.
as long as the fire
Yeah.
marshal's
Right.
okay with it,
Okay.
so that
Okay,
addresses that.
There's only
okay, so
wide.
that's,
Yeah.
that's what I'll move forward to them, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
So town planners report?
Oh, before we leave that, under E, any other item, I'd like to have an add-on. We got this on January 10th. I was out of state at the time, so I just returned yesterday. I had made the agenda up on January 6th, so here's the request for a motion to add on an agenda item and also the attachment of the request. This is for another additional 90-day extension on recording the Mylar subdivision map, the Shank subdivision, 1775 Middletown Avenue, which was application 2012/13-13. And then also below it is also if you do agree to approve to add it on to the agenda, a motion to grant the additional 90 days.
Yeah, I make a motion that we, for the applicant's request of an additional 90 days extension on recording the Mylar subdivision map for Shantz Farm subdivision, 1775 Middletown Avenue, PC application 2012/13-13.
To add it to the agenda, right? First of all?
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah, okay, sorry, yep.
Who's second?
Second?
Joe?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Okay.
I move to grant a 90-day extension that will expire May 12, 2014 on recording the Mylar subdivision map of Shantz Farm subdivision, 1775 Middletown Avenue, PC application 2012/13-13, applicant Sunwood Development Company.
So I just have a question, first of all, hold on.
Oh.
So does this put them over, that this, it's still within their
Yeah,
legal?
this is the maximum.
So 90 day, they'll be at their maximum.
Yeah,
So no more after this without,
correct.
to have something.
They,
else. Okay, I wasn't sure.
They got approved August 15th, 2013. So they had one 90-day period, which is a normal period. Then the state law says you can ask for 2 additional 90 days. You can have a total time frame to file of 270 days. So this is the
This
last
is the
90 days.
third and last.
Right.
Okay, that's good.
Well, it's actually the only the second extension, because the first 90 days is just the normal.
She's going to be retiring, not just what she's making
Okay.
of this.
Okay?
Second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, unanimous. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, town planners report.
Okay, we have received 2 applications within the last week. One is a subdivision of 6 lots at 65 Mill Road, which is the Christmas tree farm that's on Mill Road, that Henry Ford has, okay? Part of it is also an
It's
open
next to the
space.
soccer field.
Yeah, right, it's
Oh, okay.
adjacent to the soccer field, that's at Woodchase, on the corner of Woodchase and Mill. And so that's a business item, okay? There is the issue of, they're proposing open space along the Farm River side, okay, which would be appropriate, because that is in sync with the open space plan that we have under the plan of development to have Farm River corridors for accessibility as open areas and for passive recreation use. But the issue here is it's being forwarded to the Inland Wetland Agency for their next meeting, which is next week, as a general referral for recommendation as wearing their hats, not as the Inland Wetland Agency, but as the Conservation Commission, for input into consistency with the plan of development's open space plan. and also suggesting also who would be appropriate to hold the title to the land, whether the town or perhaps the North Branford Land Trust. In addition to that, usually this issue also gets forwarded to the town council. And I would suggest the commission tonight, before we schedule where we might have this for the next meeting for, to take up, that we, because it's not a public hearing, we'd have maybe float this to the town council's next agenda, or the most current next agenda that they have, to suggest whether they would want to have title to it. Otherwise, they have a say in whether they would want it. I know we do have an easement over this land currently for some drainage that the town has. So there may be some concern to have complete title of the whole area. It's about 1.3 acres. So to move this along so that, this is not delayed, there's, a time frame of 65 days in which to approve a normal subdivision. And then the applicant can ask for an extension. So if you think it's appropriate at this point to get that input, I'll go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and just bring it back.
Should we
Do you
do
want to?
something, because we don't have an application to forward with it to the
Yeah.
council, that's it?
Well, I have an application.
Okay, just
I
so we
have a
could give them an
complete
idea what
application.
this looks like.
But this is,
Yeah. This was submitted January 10th. You're technically receiving it. This is the meeting which you receive the application and you schedule it. And if you want, just for the fact that we have this thing about the open space, to keep this moving forward, I can show you generally the location of what we're talking about here. You want to just move this down?
gather around.
So there's the Mill Road Bridge. If you look at the other site, you can see where this is, the front page. I should have brought a few copies. Okay, we're right over here, and then Tucket Road goes down, intersects with Mill Road. But, across from this area, this is where the Pages have their cornfields. They rent some of the remaining land, other than the area that Ford has his Christmas trees. And on the other side of the road is the pond and the dam,
Mhm.
the Mill Pond Dam. And so, this area is obviously a river corridor that we probably want to at least have a viable owner have the ownership of it and be steward of it. Whether the town, because of its significance with the bridge area, this was a whole new project that was done with state funds and federal funds for the improvement of the bridge and if you remember the widening in that area of Mill Road. So I'm not sure, because this just came in, I haven't even referred it to any of the staff or Kurt Weiss. He's got a copy of this, but he hasn't really done any review of it yet. It may be something that either, at least if you want to look at this first at a regular meeting and get more information from the applicant, and then refer it, and then with the idea.
Probably should refer it beforehand. Why waste time?
Yeah.
Going to, having to come to us for a meeting, and
Right.
it's still, has to be referred to them.
Right,
So I would say you go ahead and let them look at it and
right. And
say whether
what's
they
the-
want it for open space or
Who
not,
should
which,
be the owner?
Well-
which they should be.
I think there's general
Maintain
consensus on the
that.
part of the commission that it's a viable area to have as open space.
Yeah, right.
I
Because if
think
you tie it up with land trust, it's,
Right. And the fact that we do have some rights on it already from the town perspective, it may be more advantageous for the town to have complete
Yeah.
ownership of it. But here again,
That's,
you know, that would be based on
That's the
more
town
information that
council.
they would rely maybe on some of the technical information Kurt Weiss would have on this issue also, and also just the general feeling whether, you know, if it needs to be partially, you know, recreational space, or if it's gonna remain passive. You know, it's all these issues that we haven't even looked
Yeah.
at, but under the subdivision regulations, you as a commission evaluates what the open space should be like, you
Is
know,
this-
Well, they
and
sh-
what is this here, this piece here?
that is actually part of the right of way.
Okay.
That is all state, town-owned, it's a local road.
Okay, so
I mean, it
All
should be,
that-
we're
yeah,
talking about
I
taking that
have
for open
access.
space, so that whole
yeah.
part, yeah.
Just
So there's
a
access
shaded
to it,
area.
the road, and it shouldn't
Well,
be
this whole-
passive. It should be active, you know, it
Yeah.
shouldn't be passive.
Well,
I mean, everything they do is passive unless it's a soccer field.
So does anyone have anything else other than we should
no.
refer it, right, everyone?
Refer
Doug,
it.
Yeah, I mean,
you okay with that?
Yep.
Doug?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, do you think it's premature to refer it before you really take a look at it? I think you need to really know who's gonna own it, and then it's a matter of what should be there. And if the town council wants to further get input as
Yeah.
to how it would be used, then, you know, they can table it and then give a final opinion back to you on what their desire is, okay? Before you can act on it, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so that, we'll forward that.
Any other
And if
things? I
you-
just
if-
want to ask a
If
question.
you would like, I can also draft something for your review before I send that out, if you care to. Or
Oh,
if it's just a
dra-
mandatory referral.
You'll send something,
Well, if you want to read the
Council.
write-up that I'm
To
going
read
to
it
send to
for
the
the
town
town
council, it's your choice if you want to review it.
We trust you.
well, you know, it's a matter of just sending out an
Yeah,
email, so I
right.
would just send the
Okay.
email out.
yeah.
Okay.
This way here,
If you have any comments, I'll draft something, and if you have any comments or additions, I'll
Is that,
get it to you,
is anyone,
okay?
is everyone here on the 6th? I'm not here on the 20th. I'm here on the 6th. I'm here on March, I'm here in March, just not here February 20th.
Yeah,
Anyone here, anyone else?
No,
No, they're
Bill.
not going to be here?
How about February 11th? February 6th?
Yeah, I'm here,
I'll be
out of
here.
these 4 you have listed, I'm just not here the 20th.
I don't know, because I'll know next Thursday whether I'm gonna have more
Yeah.
surgery or whether could do something like what you're saying. Very optimistic.
Well, let me just say, I think it could be realistic. We have 2 weeks. It's pretty straightforward subdivision. There's no real drainage detention that's needed on this. Kurt Weiss and I met preliminarily 2 weeks ago with the engineer to just review what he was going to submit, and for some cursory comments, which he added in to
The only
the
thing
application.
that I could see that we
So-
have any issue with is if that turns out to be town open space
Uh-huh.
and it's active, the lot that's adjacent to it is gonna have to have some kind of
Yeah.
good barrier.
Well, and that's why all those things have to be kind of worked out, because part of your
Beforehand.
responsibility under the zoning the subdivision regulations is how that open space is treated and how it's either going to be, what type of open space. And there's where you would put conditions to the approval that the developer has to lay it out with, you know, certain landscaping or buffering to the adjacent residential
Yeah.
property, or maybe some kind of decorative fencing or something, you know. In other words, based on what it ends up being developed or who owns it, then
I mean,
those issues, they
if the
can be
council decides that
added
it's
in.
going to go
Yeah,
to
Mhm.
the, what do you call it there?
Land.
Land trust.
Land trust, then, you know, it'll be a damn shame, but on the other hand, Problem
Well-
solved.
Well, the other thing is, the
Well,
other thing is,
that's why I say, let's wait till we hear
Yeah.
back from the town council, then we'll go.
well, and the other thing is too, I can make some general inquiry to the land trust too. But, you know, ultimately, we really need to know what the town council's thinking, okay? Then the other, I mean, certainly we could have this on the agenda for February 6th. It could start off that. So if everyone is possibly going to be here on the 6th, there'll be
I
enough.
can't answer you until
Yeah.
I see the
Okay.
surgeon.
But Nancy, you'll be around?
As far as I know.
Okay, Charlie?
Yep.
Okay, so we have at least 4 people. The other thing is a one-lot subdivision approval on, this is the remaining Lot C at the end of Cyril Road. This was that Triano Industrial
Mhm.
subdivision park that was done with 6 lots, and then there was a huge chunk of open space. And then right at the end of the cul-de-sac of Cyril Road, where it goes into the town landfill area, there was a Lot C that was not going to be approved at that time because there wasn't any percolation tests. They have since, the owner has found someone that's interested in buying it, and they've submitted it for, and they put in some percolation tests. They've submitted it for approval of that one lot. So it's a subdivision on that original subdivision, so. That's going to be going to the Inland Wetland Agency.
Is that
It
an
has some,
Industrial?
that's,
zone?
yes.
Industrial
It's, the
project?
building, let me just show you. This also can go March 6th because I've put it on the
February
Inland
6th.
Wetland schedule,
February 6th.
February 6th. I'll put it on the Inland Wetland meeting next week. Yeah, let me just, I have it up.
What's that project that's under construction at the end there?
End of Cyril Road?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the
Which-
kitchen cabinet guy?
Yeah.
No,
which
it's
one?
after Route 80 storage.
Okay, that's Walt's,
The ones with the big mounds of fill and...
oh, that's the temporary site for the Route 80 construction.
But there's building something there, I understand. They had to bring in a lot of fill.
Wait a minute.
Their, what they did was, okay, their site plan approval has a total of 3 buildings there.
Okay.
They are bringing in, or should I say, some of the remaining fill is being used in accordance with that approved site plan to fill in where there was going to be some filling for that development. So because the regulations allow additional fill when you have a site plan approval, they talked to both Kurt and I on that issue, because anytime the DOT contractor offered any fill to any of the sites around town, they had to get the town approval staff sign off, and we coordinated it with what approvals were done already on particular sites. I can tell you a few sites that did that. This is the location, okay? When you look at this map here, it's this little corner here. And here's the building, it's only 3,000 square feet. I'm gonna take it past there.
I don't want to do it.
But all it has come out is, because there's a little bit of wetland there, they just have the driveway and some grading up in here for all the regulated activities that have to get approved. Okay. So that can also be on for February 6th, okay? Unless you have any problems with either of these two, okay. And then, so far, that's what we have. We might have some other things coming up, but I haven't, I've had some inquiries, but I really don't want to say anything because I don't know how soon they'll come. The other thing is, we don't have any municipal referral notification that you should be aware of or concerned about. Regarding development update, we have the Economic Development Commission Charrette Workshop on the Town Center Route 80 corridor coming up. This was the rescheduled one that was canceled December 14th because of the bad weather.
The 23rd now?
To the 25th, January 25th.
Yeah, it's Saturday.
Oh, 25th is a Saturday? Okay, for the 25th.
And the time is, I've sent out the flyer to you by email again. The time is 1 to 3:30 at the NBIS Intermediate School Cafeteria.
Okay.
So,
When
I
did-
know some of you have expressed prior, the other workshop, that you would be attending. So I encourage you, if you can fit it into your schedule, to come. I think it's important to get an overview of what some of the information the Yale design people are putting forward, to get additional comments from the public, and also just generally what you think might be a good area of different
Just
issues.
as a heads up on this, because it says a Route 80 corridor, there's
Uh-huh.
going to be a number of people there that want to talk about the Duty House, because it's Route 80 and what's happening to that.
What's
Well,
happening to that?
This,
Whether
What's
Paul
the-
Bet, I mean, it's in court and
I don't know anything about that.
whether
well,
it's being
I
torn
don't think
down.
that's going to be,
Well, I know there's going to be a lot of
Yeah.
people there at this
because the
meeting
Route 80
because of that.
corridor is, this project has been defined to be the area that
The wall field in there.
has, like, from
Right, I know where it is.
where
but-
the family
Tell
store
them.
is, from Twin Lakes down to the library, okay?
But
And-
you might hit a lot of resistance. I mean,
Well,
from the
first of all,
Facebook,
they're going to,
there's going to be a lot of people
Well-
there. Or there were at
Who's
the other
leading this
meeting.
Is it the Yale consultants?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they've been hired by the town
but the
council.
Yaleys are in their keep.
Yeah.
Well, they may want to, you know, I think what, here again, the framework of the charrette is that there's going to be a presentation and an overview with some reactions of examples of different design features for that area. And the main principal focus is the town center right at 139 and 80. And more importantly, the town hall, former town hall site. Because this whole idea is to facilitate an overall planning thing that accommodates the future sale as to the highest and best use for that land, and what the community and the leaders want that will be the most beneficial to the entire community, and also to maybe perhaps integrate the issue of the development of some open space or town space to make it a very attractive area, so that what commercial development does happen, like in the existing North Branford Plaza, can also respect that kind of future use that's happening on the other side, and that we have a better redevelopment of the plaza to be to something that everybody wants to have as, architecturally fitting in to the kind of community we're starting to see with some of the redesign buildings that have been brought forth for development, that this commission has kind of influenced, especially like the Early Learning Center and the library redevelopment of that campus area. So we have a lot of issues here because that area has a federal designation down that further a little bit beyond where we have the old prior senior center, not only just the community center that was in the old town hall. And that's another issue that because we vacated that building too, and it's adjacent to the cemetery, what kind of use would we use to keep the integrity of that area that's also contributing to the
And Wall
gonna be-
Field
National
as an
Historic
open
District.
space.
It's going to be
Yeah.
important for
Is
some of us to go.
Is the Historic Society been invited on this?
Yes, it's on the,
Everybody has.
yeah.
I'm sure they're concerned with that, other, not the old town hall, but the one, that building that was behind.
The old town.
That's
The
the old
center,
town.
That's
the
the old
center
town hall?
school.
Well, it
No,
was.
you're talking about center school.
It was land dedicated by a resident
The gray
for
one.
the
Yeah.
That's
purpose
center
in
school. That used to
1920
be center
to build
school.
a elementary school.
Yeah.
And the elementary school was built, okay? Then additional land was added to the site, because I did the title searches of these properties when we did the state location map request change to make this into a commercial area for the town to be able to end up selling it, or at least take it out of what was a designated by the state a municipal open space area, which would limit any kind of use other than municipal uses. So that again is another facet of what is going to be discussed, I'm sure, because everyone has, I'm sure, their own vision of what might or should be in this particular area, and how things could be improved to make it be a more economically viable area besides. And the scope and the size of development is going to be an issue that will need to be addressed too. Not only just what type of use would be, suitable and more advantageous to have. The other side issue is going to be what should the rest of the Route 80 corridor, as you go up to Big Y and a little bit further, how that should have some kind of landscaping treatment or some architectural design features, and even what elements of architectural design should any of those redeveloped buildings resemble, for this area to be consistent, to be, a unified area.
Well, didn't we sort of agree on the dollar store appearance, even
Well,
that being one of them?
That's what was, one of the key things that we were trying to make sure that at least we were hopefully in a framework that most people would think would be appropriate for architectural design for this community area down in the
Right.
center.
So is anyone planning to go?
I
I'm
am.
going to try to go.
I am.
I know.
Yeah, okay,
Well,
good. That's
I
in what,
think-
not this weekend, but it's
The next
Next
week.
following weekend.
Yeah, the 25th.
So that's coming up.
Yeah, it's kinda like that.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll have a good
Okay.
break in the weather. And
Yeah, we'll see.
there'll be a little bit of refreshments too, coffee and some kind of beverage and maybe some cookies or something for a break. It won't be all work.
Yeah.
It should be an interesting,
It'll be in the
Inter-
cafeteria?
How
yeah.
many
Oh,
people
it's in,
get there?
it's not in the auditorium.
No,
No,
cafeteria,
cafeteria.
North Branford Intermediate School.
I gotta find the cafeteria.
That's a pretty big place. We've had some of the town council budget hearings there in the past, when they just had opened up the school, on the renovation.
All right, anything else?
And they've got, the big screen TVs, and, there's gonna be like a little bit of presentation,
Okay.
a slide PowerPoint presentation, I guess.
Used to be known as the Dog and Pony Show.
Well, planners have their own words for it, but, the whole idea of this is to solicit viable comments from the citizens and from the key people that are involved in organizations and government that have an understanding where the focus should be and where the direction should go on, future development. in this area. So I think we've covered pretty much everybody in the world to ask,
Yeah, good.
and including the private citizens of the area and, you know, within the town too. So, I mean, there's been some very good press in the local newspapers and also in the New Haven Register. So I think we've kind of saturated enough of PR for people to understand what's happening. So
Okay, good.
and I hope we have, now that the holidays are over, I hope this is a more opportune time for the public to respond, now that they're finished with, you know, it's
Are
a
they
new
doing-
year.
Are they doing anything with Suntec and those places along there?
It's 139.
139.
It's 139.
Yeah,
Well, I think they're still for sale.
they're still for sale. Was the town thinking of,
Well, here again, it'll be interesting to
See
see.
what people-
You know, because I do believe some council people are coming to this. But once again, I mean, this is the beginning of the opening of the dialogue to and have them be able to hear where the consensus is of what people's expectations
The
are.
dialogue between who's got
The whole
Yale-
citizen.
No,
and the
I know that, but
organization.
you see, the beginning of the dialogue, who in the end makes the decisions?
It would be part of this project, the conclusion has to be presented back to the planning and zoning and the town
Town
council.
council.
so there wouldn't be a referendum on this? No?
Well, unless the town council decides afterwards, once the conclusion of what is being proposed and they buy into the acceptance of it, then it's up to them to say, well, we need X amount for the sale.
Yeah.
We need to have a referendum, we need to have expenditures maybe for, you know, development of grants, to get grants for co-sharing some of the costs. I don't know where it's gonna go. But
Come on up.
here again, I mean,
January
I
25th.
think the town
some
council has
communities
their own ideas of
have
what's
put
gonna
this
happen
on
already.
a local election ballot as a referendum item or a separate referendum. Whether, what constitutes to that level, you know, if everyone actually comes down to a final conclusion that everybody supports, then there isn't really a need for a referendum if there's
You won't
that
get
comfort
anything
level
that
of everyone's on the
everybody
same
supports.
page.
We'll get more than,
They call that magical
So-
thinking.
yeah.
You know,
All right, so I guess the
The
point is,
answer
we
to
should
your-
all try
yeah.
to get out there, right?
yeah,
January 25th.
okay.
We
And I
can make it,
think
we should try to make it.
the only
Our
other thing,
Participation might be useful.
the only other thing under any other information or issues of development uptake, the gentleman that received the winery approval
Yeah.
on Middletown Avenue gave me a call the other day and making an inquiry. He wants to do some changes to his approval. What he has started to do, he realizes the overall cost for funding and everything else to build the other main building that's up. What he's done is use the barn, the existing barn, which was to be used as an accessory to the principal operation, to fit it out with, and restore it inside, to have it as a space to make some of the wine, okay? And what he's thinking is he'd like to, by the time of the summer, have some wine tasting there, because the wine that he's made so far is gonna be ready for the spring, for the summer. And that he wanted to know how he would go about, what process would he need to be able to have that wine tasting at a limited scale, obviously, out of that little barn that's behind the
Yeah.
deteriorating building. The other part of this, and, you know, again, he hit me cold yesterday when he called. the other part of this is he took down the back old, later addition to that old historic house. And he is of the opinion that he's going to renovate it so that a family member can live there, whether it's him or one of his daughters, to be on site all the time. So we have some hope for the historic house to be renovated. I guess structurally, the rear addition that was added was in bad shape, so he took that down. So he's thinking of doing that. So obviously, there was always that latitude of whether if they could keep it there or move it somewhere else. So that isn't an issue. There's always the ability to have a house on the property, because he's really in agricultural use.
So,
Okay.
is there a question
The
towards-
issue back is, what kind of planning and zoning process would he need? I think the basic special use is tied into certain hours and everything else, and the operation of wine tasting and what he could serve and everything else. He doesn't want to do all that other stuff, just taste the wine. None of this cheese and all this other stuff for this little building. But I think the special use itself and all those conditions are in place. I think what is different is maybe the site plan, because there's no parking around that little area. And anything that was more in detail was done under the site plan that had some conditions also. So, I mean, it could be, that would be the way we could go on just revising a site plan. Or have this as like, instead of the first phase he got approved for use of the first floor of the building, of the main building, principally he was gonna build, have this as being a preliminary phasing until he constructs the larger building.
Well, it seems to me, you know, the uses that he's talking about are the same ones we approved.
Right.
And he
This is
is
the
doing
parking.
less in terms of disturbed building stuff. So I really don't think it needs a heck of a lot of
No.
review.
No, I would say, you know, here again, he's given such extensive, you know, things, and he's done some regrading in that area already. But I think we have to be able to approve location where he would put some parking, because, you know, we want to make sure that's done properly, and, you
And
know,
safely.
the amount of parking he might need, whether it's on gravel area, or that he doesn't create more of a problem for himself or any of the public that would be going. But, I mean, he would be tied into whatever hours was before, and those other general standards. So I think maybe just, he wouldn't have to maybe have even a full-blown site plan, I would think. Just like, you know, when we've had the 5 Ardsley come in and they wanted to do renovation to the front of their building and all that, we didn't have them go through a whole process of
You just mentioned,
fees or
probably gonna be
anything
more
else.
the exterior and the parking.
Yeah,
Parking,
yeah.
parking.
That's really
So-
it.
I think it wouldn't be like a full-blown application where you'd have to pay a fee or anything. And I think it's just reviewing to make sure you've gotten, you know, an input that he's not going to be in violation of any of his other approvals, and that it's consistent with those other 2 approvals. I see it just as a review process.
With just staff? or
Well,
here?
with staff, and then we would bring
You
it
would
down
come-
to you
You would come here. okay.
for your
Or someone would come
concurrence,
here,
for
okay.
your concurrence, and you
Yeah,
would
okay,
give
that
a
makes sense.
general approval of the motion. Do you
Sound-
feel that that's
sound-
consistent with?
Sound good? Reasonable?
Yep.
Brad, yeah, Charlie?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so, okay, you'll be happy to hear that, you know, it's not gonna be as lengthy as this other process, okay? So if he can get his things together, maybe by the end of February or early March, we'll get something. 'Cause,
Because
he's got,
parking is the biggest issue, because,
Yeah.
you know, he's already had enough problems with neighbors.
and erosion
you know, telling him, why is he taking down all the trees? Well, I mean, hello, you gotta build a vineyard, you can't have trees.
Well,
So
and the other
you've
thing
gotta
is-
make sure that
Yeah.
parking isn't gonna be a problem when he has these little tastings, and that's the biggest issue.
Yeah. And he's gonna need to have his little sign or a shingle out, you know, in the front. So those little things are important to make sure we don't have any other issues.
Okay.
Okay?
Anything else?
So I think that's it.
I got a
Unless
question,
anybody-
and if
Yeah.
it's something that's underway, you can plead the fifth. I noticed they took down the office portion of Artec wire. Is anybody doing anything?
Where?
Oh, and you guys from out of town, it's on Route 80,
Oh, okay, yeah.
and they had a warehouse and an office, and the warehouse collapsed in the
Right.
snow of 2 years ago.
Past
And-
Cumberland Farms.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know.
And I just happened to notice this week, the office is gone.
Oh, that's.
I
that's
didn't know whether
demolished
somebody
too?
showed an interest or they're just cleaning up the site. And maybe they haven't even come in.
I know there was,
I'm gonna go there tomorrow now.
Yeah.
wait a second, I just gotta change the tape.
See, we could have did it in 2 tapes, Charlie.
I know during the summer, there were town officials that had approached the owner, because I had tracked down the owner.
Mhm.
I didn't approach the owner, but I did it for someone else that was a town official, because they had some inquiry that people were interested in the site in this town, and that this might be a viable location to locate. And it was a major company. So here again, the answer came back, the owner wasn't interested in developing at this point or in selling it. So I don't know if something else has changed since that time. I haven't heard anything else. But I certainly will make some inquiry if you like.
Yeah, I just happened to notice that it was gone. It took me 3 or 4 times by the building to realize that it collapsed after the snowstorm.
I know what you're talking about.
Well, the other thing is too, I mean, look at how long it's been standing there.
Yeah.
It could have been because of the weather and everything else. It was no longer really structurally sound.
That's what you said, maybe it was a
That could
hazard.
have, that could have been too. I
Said
can
take
check
it
with the
down.
building
Insurance
official.
company could have said, get
Yeah.
rid of that, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
I can check with our, internally, with our building
Yeah,
department if
it's
there
not a
was
life or
something
death
that
matter,
was.
it's just nosiness.
Well, if that was taken down, it would have been a demolition
Yeah.
permit issued. So.
Check it out.
Just,
Okay.
you just reminded me, just one quick question. What's the story with that, the club behind Country Paint? Weren't they looking at expanding?
The second floor.
Motorcycle club.
The motorcycle club?
Yeah. I thought I heard something that they were looking to take more space in there.
They had asked, over a year ago for
Who was
space.
talking about, who had contacted me, was the exercise guy.
Oh,
The
okay.
athlete
Yeah.
exercise
Soft-
facility.
Okay.
He was thinking of taking another unit to the, next to him that was becoming available.
Okay.
And he asked about that. And I still
think he'll
have,
join him?
I still have, his name is Frank, trying to think his last name. I have his file on my desk still, waiting for whether it's gonna come forward or not.
Okay.
It's quite a while ago that you brought it up.
Huh?
Them expanding is quite a while ago.
Well, no, it was about, sometime last year.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
quite
it was
a
in the
while.
fall,
Yeah.
in the fall.
Yeah.
He was
It's quite
making
a-
an inquiry, but he has to go through planning and zoning. I don't know what changed.
All
But
right.
I
Maybe
did not,
money.
I did not hear about the,
I'd like to move we adjourn.
All right, second?
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.